Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock or related genres that I want to recommend to you all. If you have similar tastes in music as me, it's an album that I think you'll really dig and enjoy because it's one that I've been really loving. So today I have a really special one today by one of my all-time favorite bands. Excited to talk about it, just kind of give my impressions and feelings listening to it several times at this point and why I recommend it to you out there. This is the Deer Hunter and their new album Sunya. This is a band that was formed back in 2005, a band from the US, and have slowly crept up to become one of my favorite bands that's currently active in music today. And they probably wouldn't traditionally be called progressive rock, but I think they're beloved by many in the progressive rock community because of their spirit of, genre bending and doing concept records and playing with a lot of sonic landscapes and different types of textures. To me, they have a true progressive spirit in the way they craft their music. They are well known for their Act series, which began with Act 1 in 2006 and went all the way to Act 5 in 2016. Excellent narrative story through multiple albums that takes upon very different kinds of genres at different points, things all the way from like vaudevillian type music to, something even akin to disco on Act 4 even, just running the gamut between a lot of different styles, but still having their core identity and sound, which is remarkable to me that they're able to play within these different styles, but still sound at their core like the Deer Hunter. And I really respect that when an artist has a signature sound, but has a lot of variety within to play with a lot of different musical landscapes. And I think the Deer Hunter really captures that particularly well. Acts 4 and 5 in particular, to me, are near masterpieces of modern music that I think everyone should go seek out and check out. But they've come into a new musical world and landscape with this new album series, duology, if you will. Antimai, which came out in 2022, and now Sunya, which has just come out now. And they both inhabit the same musical landscape. This is separate from the Act series, more of like a sci-fi type concept. Really, it evokes kind of this like 70s style, sci-fi, retro-futuristic stuff. All basically setting the scenes for this really unique sci-fi world that they're crafting. Antimai was divided up into these different rings that this world was crafted, where each ring kind of contains a different class of people. And so each song was about a different ring and the type of people within it and their struggles and the class divisions and all that kind of stuff. This album kind of takes you on the outskirts of this world, to the wastelands, to places on the fringes with, kind of a Mad Max sort of vibe, perhaps. But these two albums together form this incredible duology of music that I absolutely love, that's right in my wheelhouse. This is music meant for me that really speaks to me. They added this kind of jazzy funkiness to their sound, this kind of almost 70s soul and funk sound to these records that wasn't really a part of the Axe records, that sets these apart into a new world and a new landscape that I've really been loving and enjoying. And so Sunya is just a great continuation of that sound from Antimai. Antimai was my favorite record of 2022. I crowned it as the top record for my personal taste, and Sunya is destined to have a similar fate because I think it's every bit as good as Antimai. It sets it apart in some very distinctive ways, but it also feels in the same world, in the same universe as the other album, working in tandem perfectly well. The musicians here we've got for this record: Casey Krasinso on lead vocal, guitar, synth, piano, percussion, talkbox, production. He's kind of the captain of the ship of the Deer Hunter, the one with the vision, the one who puts this all together. To me, he's one of our greatest modern songwriters that is criminally underknown. I wish that more people knew of his talents because he's one of the greats in my opinion. Nick Krasinso on drums and vocals, Maxwell Tussaud on guitar, synth, and vocals, Robert Parr guitar, synth, backing vocals, and Nick Solicito on bass, synth, and vocals. And it's an incredible lineup. They all do an incredible job building this sonic landscape, like I mentioned. And it does take some of that like 70s, soul and funk vibes. Think about Stevie Wonder in his prime, definitely, especially in Glass Desert 2, Cliffs and Stormlands. You get this harmonica sound that adds to that feel, and this funky, kind of bouncy, fun vibe to it, this, infectious bass groove. All of those things are baked into this music, but they don't sacrifice the sonic qualities that they're known for, that they're able to bring these great melodies that have almost this Beatles-esque quality, and this sumptuous synth work and these textures that layer upon each other. And it's fantastic throughout the track list. It's criminally short record. It's only 42 minutes long, which is about an average length for like a 70s record anyways, and fits perfectly on a vinyl record, two sides. But to me, I just want more. I want there to be another track or two to really build out this world and this setting even more so. I think it's indicative of my love for the record that I just want more of it. I just crave even more to take place here in this fabulous setting that he's created, this retro futuristic 70s sci-fi world, full of glittering kaleidoscopic synths and just wonderful soundscapes and textures that just dazzle the senses and create a lot of excellent ear candy to enjoy as a listener. The Wasteland starts the record, and I love how it basically picks up right where Antimai leaves off. If you put these two albums together and listen to them back to back, it should seamlessly shift into the Wasteland, where we're back into that groovy sort of feel of Antimai. But I feel like this record, by and large, is a little bit more slow-paced, a little bit more thoughtful, allowing for a lot more space and a lot of time for these lush arrangements to really captivate you. I feel like Antimai was a little bit more immediate, a little bit more fun and funky, and songs that grabbed your ear almost immediately, where I feel like this is going to be a bit more of a slow burn, with layers that uncover themselves over time, and just sumptuous beauty and gorgeous soundscapes throughout the record. And of course, there's still pops of like fun tracks as well, fun, funky, groovy, kind of Antimai-esque tracks throughout the runtime. So don't feel like, oh, this is just going to be all a slow burn slog that's going to be hard to get my head around. I think there's immediate moments and, definite grooves and sections that grab your attention, but it's very complex music. There's a lot of layers to it. It's not your typical song structures. Sometimes they'll repeat a chorus here and there. Sometimes it won't have that typical repeating feel, and everything's kind of brand new and different as you go throughout each track. So I think that can make it a little less accessible for people who are just expecting hook after hook. But if you keep listening more and more, those layers uncover themselves, and you get those hooks and you get those memorable moments, and stuff just starts to really like stick with you throughout time. And I think that's indicative of some of the best records. That's how I like my music, with more complexity and layers and reasons to keep coming back and re-listening, not feeling like, well, I've heard it a couple times, I've got the gist of that, now I can move on to another record. Like, there's stuff to unpack and stuff that continues to develop to me. I feel like I haven't fully solved the puzzle of the record even now after several listens. But yeah, back to the Wasteland, the first track of the record. So much sonic ear candies, a cool underlying bass groove, moments where it really slows down the pace and really builds itself, but then moments that are a bit more fun and fast-paced, and you get the ending with glorious 70s synth and this vocal blend magic. The vocals throughout this whole record are magnificent. There's so many great harmonies, so many moments where you get these build-up and swirling vocals, and they're so catchy, and I think Casey carries so much emotion and weight, and the lyrics are really expertly composed. They're very poetic, but interesting and entertaining at the same token. You could tell a lot of thought went into this record, and that's what I appreciate. Marauders comes next, the shortest track on the record, and probably the most similar to kind of earlier Axe Deer Hunter, from the Axe albums. Immediately turns into a quick-paced bop with a bouncy feel and kind of whimsical keyboard vibes. Delightfully quirky with a hidden funk that continues at this fun, upbeat pace. It's really infectious. And the Bizarreria comes next. Sorry if I'm butchering the title, but the Bizarreria. Fantastic track, very much in the vein of Antimai. We get that funky kind of feel, 70s keyboards, a nice dreamy break with swirling harmonies before we get back to that infectious groove of the main part of the song. There's like Beach Boys-esque harmonies throughout this track, and it ends with this pure like cosmic bliss. One of my favorite tracks on the record. I really love it. And then we get this like 3-song suite of the Glass Desert. Glass Desert 1 Giants was an early single on the record, and it's very indicative of this Indigo Child world that they've crafted. Swirling kaleidoscopic piano before we get the beat, harmonies and sick bass grooves. There's almost like a sweeping doo-wop style chorus, just dreamy and beautiful. Faster drums and triumphant keyboard horn sounds as it continues and gets this kind of big bombastic flavor. We get a little bit of a bass solo in the mix and these big vocal la-la-las and just wonderful drum work and horns, and just the whole sumptuous vibe of the record is encapsulated in this 5-minute track. I love how it develops and goes through a lot of different movements within a relatively short runtime. And then we get to probably, to me, the standout of the record, Glass Desert 2, Cliffs and Stormlands. Thoughtful vocals, some harmonica kind of lingering in the background, almost 80s style synths. But then it gets funky and groovy. This is where you get the most pronounced like Stevie Wonder type of feel, and some of the most funkiest fun moments on the record, just really infectious grooves and bass lines, and some wonderful choruses that stick in my brain and are just so fun to listen to. I love that 70s funk vibe that they go for. It's so much of a fun left turn that wasn't really something they explored in the Axe albums, but is something they're fully embracing now, and I hope is a continued feature in their music going forward. And then we get into the Plains, the third part of this Glass Desert suite, and this is a little bit more laid back and sweeter, almost like a country flavor in the choruses, I'd say. I love the swing of it and the harmony vocals, never losing that cosmic swirl of keyboards that keeps you into this futuristic landscape. It ends with kind of these glitchy soundscapes and this chiming bell type instrument and an ambient feel leading into Sunya, the title track. 8 minutes of just gorgeous beauty and lushness, and it builds to epic heights towards the end. It has a fantastic conclusion, brings back that Indigo Child motif and some of the motifs from the Antimai record, building this kind of slow, jazzy funk vibe with the saxophone and adding strings and orchestration, and it just builds to this glorious, heartfelt, emotional climax that's really beautiful, and the sentiment of the lyrics is also really beautiful and introspective and meaningful, so it's just an excellent conclusion. It fades out and just gives you this sense of satisfaction for this record. So to me, it's the perfect package. It's incredible listen. It gives you moments of beautiful gorgeousness and lush arrangements, and like I said, layers to unpack, that just sonic ear candy that you kind of are trying to wrap your head around. But then there's these funky, fun moments that kind of bring you back into this kind of hooky, fun, bounce along with feel that I think is a great complement to the more lush, like complex arrangements that they're going for. So to me, this is what modern music should be. This is, creative and ambitious, and I love albums that tell stories and are conceptual. And I was thinking about this earlier today, how my musical taste, I grew up loving the Beatles and different rock music, and even alternative rock of the era back in the early 2000s. But progressive rock really captured my attention, because what I really seek in all forms, books, movies, television, is something that explores new sonic territory, new worlds, new imaginative heights, things that really spark my creative brain. And progressive rock is the perfect form of music to be able to express that creativity, to go outside the boundaries of just your typical, pop and rock song structure, and being able to create sonic landscapes that tell stories and that are, things that take you to another place. And I love how music does that. It's not just the lyrics telling the story, it's the music itself that's building this world out in your mind. And, a lot of times I'm not really completely catching on to all the lyrics and their meaning and everything else when I'm listening to an album. Sometimes I just like to let the music wash over me, let my imagination take me to new worlds in my brain and picture things based on what I'm hearing, without having the words literally paint the picture. I like the music to paint the picture and to give me this kind of setting to live within, with these albums, and that's what I love about progressive rock. And I think Deer Hunter really capture that sort of feel and vibe. And I'm so excited for the band. I think this is a triumph. I think this is one of their best works, and they've come up with so many great works, so that's saying a lot. And I'm just excited to keep listening to it. It's an addictive record, right in my wheelhouse. If you like, indie with, prog elements, if you like storytelling and imaginative sci-fi, concepts and records, if you like kind of that funk, kind of 70s Stevie Wonder style sound baked in to this kind of indie prog aesthetic, it's a unique sound, at least from my sphere of what I listen to. I feel like they've really captured something unlike what most other prog artists are doing these days. So, A+ record, love it to death. This is, inject this into my veins. This is my kind of music that I feel was written for my particular tastes, and I thank the band for just putting this out there and having this ambitious creativity and being willing to explore these different musical genres and stories that they're exploring. I can't wait for what's next. It sounds like they're going to be creating a novel based in this universe, to come later this year, hopefully. And it sounds like they've already been working on the next album, but it's not going to really take place in this same universe. A different concept, a different world to explore. And I can't tell you how excited that makes me to know that they're continuing to explore and do really ambitious things with their music, and that new albums are coming in the near future. Can't wait for that, and hopefully you guys will check out their music if you haven't yet. I strongly recommend it. It's some of my favorite stuff. They're slowly creeping up to be one of my favorite modern bands that I follow, and definitely in my top 5 of favorite modern bands that are still out there making music. So thank you guys. Hopefully you appreciated this review. Let me know in the comments if you've heard the record, how you feel about Sunya and the Deer Hunter in general, and I'd love to know your thoughts. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys in a future episode. Bye everybody. Enjoy the music.